Hi, welcome to Tone Zone. Today we got a monster in the studio, and I'm not talking about some pedal. We have a special guest, Rob van der Loo from Epica, Delane, whatever. He's the main man today. Hi Rob, welcome to Tone Zone.
Hello.
How you doing?
Thanks for having me. I'm good, thank you.
Well, first question, why did you decide to pick up the guitar, the bass guitar?
Bass guitar, that's a good question. I started playing saxophone when I was like 8 years old, and I got into heavy rock thanks to my parents, because my father was a big Led Zeppelin fan, and my mother also brought me to a Guns N' Roses concert when I was like 12 years old.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely. And my brother started playing guitar because there were a lot of his friends were also playing electric guitar, and so I also wanted to play electric guitar because it was, of course, cool. But the thing was, they also wanted to form a band, and well, you're probably already starting to feel it. There was
too
a
many
lack of bass. Yeah, too many guitar players and drummers, of course, and there were no bass players. And there was this guy in our street. He had a bass guitar, and actually, I never heard of a bass guitar before. I only heard of guitars, but what the hell is a bass guitar? So, yeah, I went to his place, and he showed it to me, and I saw this huge axe, and it was way bigger than a normal electric guitar, of course, because of the bigger scale. And I was sold right away. I was like, okay.
Love at first sight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool.
That's basically it. That's how it started.
And what are your influences?
Yeah, like I said, I was basically raised with bands like Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, and I still hear that in my style. I'm a big fan of Geezer Butler, John Paul Jones, Roger Glover, Glenn Hughes.
The classic ones.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then you started to play with bands, and you got a little more in the gigging scene.
Yeah.
When did you decide to go to the Rock Academy?
Well, actually, I got to think right now. I started playing bands right away, actually, to be honest, because that's the way to learn to play, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, you can sit and practice at home at your basement or attic or whatever you're practicing. But I started playing in a lot of bands, and it started to get a little bit more serious for me when I joined a band called Suncaged, or actually I co-formed that band, which was a more progressive metal kind of band. And things got a little bit more serious with that band because we started playing bigger festivals. We also did a little small support tour for a band like Queensryche, for instance. And then actually it came up to me like, why don't I, start becoming maybe a pro musician? I thought it wasn't really realistic to do that because also my parents were also like, okay, just first finish your school, first graduate, maybe do engineering. I actually also first studied chemistry, to be honest. And when that didn't work out, my parents were okay, whatever, just go for music. And the only true option, or the first school that I felt comfortable with, was actually the Rock Academy, basically because they were more focused on modern music and not just like classical music and jazz and everything. Not that I wasn't in that kind of music, but that wasn't really my area, to be honest. And I went there, and yeah, we did a little introduction, felt right, pretty cool right away, actually. So that's where it all started. And since I joined that school, it was probably in 2014 or 2003, I didn't quite remember that, but that's when I started to become a full-time professional musician, actually.
Okay, how did you wind up with Epica?
They asked me.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Before that, I played in a band called Delane, which also was a little bit more a symphonic metal rock kind of band. And after 4 years, I quit that band because I was a little bit fed up with touring. And
whoa.
Yeah. It's a long story. The problem was, it's also the situation. I was still at school, and it wasn't paying the bills. That was the main problem. Let's be honest about that. I had a great time with the band, and I learned a lot from it, but it just simply wasn't paying the bills. And of course, we have a house to pay.
Bread on the table.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's also very important. And I wasn't happy in that situation, so I quit that band. And I started more focusing on teaching, actually, because that was my only source of income at that moment. Until one day I got the phone call from Mr. Mark Jansen from Epica. He said, like, okay, our bass player is leaving the band, and we need a bass player within 2 weeks. Okay. So here are 5 records. Go ahead. We don't have a set list yet. Study your ass off, and you'll be on tour with us within 2 weeks. And I took that job, and here we are.
Cool.
Yeah.
And besides Epica, you're a teacher at Metal Factory in Eindhoven.
Yeah.
How did you get involved with that?
Well, actually, to tell a little bit more about the school in Holland, we have several schools that are more focused on pop music. What they actually found out after a while is that there are a lot of metal musicians that tried the same kind of schools, but they didn't feel happy because they didn't. You're like a little bit like musical black sheep, basically. But the school also realized that, I mean, there's a huge metal scene. And metal scene in the whole world, it's a huge scene. You never hear of it. It's not mainstream music anymore like it used to be in the 80s. But there's a huge market, and there are opportunities to actually get work and make a living out of it. So they thought like maybe we should do the same kind of school, but more focused on that scene. And they were looking for people like to start with, of course. And the first people they started looking were Ruud Jolie from Within Temptation, Steph Rocks from Textures, Marcella from Stream of Passion, Johan from the same band who also plays with Arian. Yep. And he asked me to become a bass teacher, a band coach, and also do music theory. And we just started it. We did it with like the same protocol with the other schools, but only more focused on the metal scene. Cool. And so far, its results pretty cool actually.
And real fun to do.
Yeah.
With the youngsters.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about your gear. First of all, Douglas. Can you explain your love for Douglas and how did you get involved with the whole Douglas thing?
I've been playing with Douglas now for, let me think, I don't want to lie about it, I guess like 4, maybe 5 years. I got in touch with him through JB van der Wal. He's a bass player with Duel right now, and he used to play in Aborted. Mm-hmm. And he played with the B3K, and I believe he had a prototype at home, and he said, dude, check these out. And I was like, what is it? Yeah, well, it's a bass overdrive, you really like it. And I was already playing with the Sanzab and more that classic kind of stuff. I said, do I really need that? He said, dude, check it out, you'll love it. And this guy is a total audiophile, so I took his word for it. And indeed, he sent me the pedal and I was totally in love with it right away because of it has a very modern sound, can sound very classic, it's very versatile, has so much headroom into the sound, and that was the reason why I said like, okay, I want to go for it. And I got in touch with Hugo and Douglas from Douglas, and they sent me a B7K prototype. And since then, I've been using it in my live rig, and then haven't changed it ever since.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you're a real Douglas adept.
Absolutely, totally. Yeah.
Cool. And the way you use the B7K. Yeah. You use it live.
Yes, I use it as well live as in the studio. Of course, in the studio you have so much options. I also use the other pedals. I also tried the Microtubes, Vintage Deluxe, the Duality, whatever. I tried them all. But for live, I use the B7K in a very basic setup. I basically, it's quite comparable to the setting right now on the amp. Mm-hmm. Everything is almost, well, I boosted a little bit of bass, of course, and added a little bit more of drive, but that's because of how the speakers work. But normally it's a very basic setting. I use one setting combined with a clean DI. I use the B7K for my in-ear monitoring because I don't work with an amp on stage. I only use the overdrive. Mm-hmm. That's also the sound that I have on my in-ear. And to the front of house, we use one dry signal that comes from a radial JDI, and we combine it with the B7K. So what we do is basically a clean signal. We use a compressor for the low end, and then at the B7K for the dirty little edge.
And that's what creates the monster sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to call it that way, but yeah.
It's huge, but it has a lot of definition.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and it's so simple to use. I mean, a lot of people say, "Wow, your bass sound has become way bigger. It sounds more gnarlier and everything." But actually, what you basically do is you create more room in your sound. Because that's way more headroom into it. So, yeah, it's a very functional way of working, especially with the music that we play, because it's already full pumped with orchestras and huge guitars and drums and whatever, and keyboards, of course. That's pretty difficult to get a decent bass tone out of that, but it cuts right through. Yeah.
Then the Dingwall. How did you wind up playing that Dingwall?
Yeah, that's also a pretty good question.
Because your frame is from the D-Bird.
Yeah.
It was a bit like your child.
Yeah, of course, it's Sheldon Dingwall's child, but I definitely collaborated on that one. How did I get in touch with Dingwall? Well, I remembered a band called My Favorite Scar. They're also from Holland. They don't exist anymore, I think. But their bass player used to play with same model like this, a Super J, a 4-string version. I believe it has also with a precision pickup on it, but whatever. What I liked about his sound, it was he also used very down-tuned. I believe he had a 4-string tuned in maybe drop A or whatever, and it sounded so tight as hell. And I was really blown away by his sound. Like, what bass is this? I say, yeah, it's Dingwall. So I definitely got to check that out. So I got in touch with Sheldon Dingwall, and first of all, they wanted me to use the combustion bass, but I was so in love with the Super J that I wanted to try it out. So I went for a Super J and a Super P model, which are both basses are completely passive, very simple setup. These are basically almost like classic Fender basses, but then completely adapted to the Dingwall idea, of the multi-scaled fan frets, whatever. And yeah, I think it's like everything that I don't like about a Fender, they actually adjusted, and now I have my perfect bass. And indeed, what you said, from this bass came the idea for the D-Bird. Because I spoke to Sheldon Dingwall and said, okay, I've been playing your 5-string basses now for quite a while, and I've always kind of been forced to play a 5-string, because also with Epica we play everything, so we play it in B. So I'm kind of forced to use a 5-string, because I always try to do it on a 4-string, but most 4-strings tuned in B sound terrible in my ears, especially if you want a real tight sound. If you play, for instance, you play stoner rock or you play doom or whatever, and you want it a little bit more, that's completely different. That might work out, but for me it didn't work out. So I said to Sheldon Dingwall, is there a possibility to build a 4-string bass with the same skill as a 5-string bass, like the same long B, and adapt that to a 4-string model, also passive? He said, okay, we could do that. We can maybe redesign this bass or redesign the precision bass you've been using, but we'll need time for it and we'll have to do it later. I said, no, it's no problem. I'm not in a rush. I'm very happy with these basses, but to be honest, 4 strings is enough for me.
Yeah.
Sometimes I use a G string, but in general, 4 strings is enough. And after a while, I got a phone call from him. He said, well, I have this crazy idea. I always wanted to build a Dingwall in the setting of a Thunderbird bass. Would you be into a Thunderbird model instead of maybe a jazz bass or precision? I said, of course, why not? Yeah. I love those basses. They are pretty cool. But the only thing I right away said, the only thing I don't like about those basses are the neck drop, because they always have this huge headstock. He said, oh, don't worry, I already have a shitload of ideas that might work for this bass, and let's just work on the idea. So what we basically did is he created a Thunderbird model with a very thin body, actually, because normally Thunderbirds are pretty thick, to be honest. And what we did is we actually used my pickup setting in that bass. Because the difference is this is not a standard 3 pickup setting what they normally use with Dingwall, but this pickup setting is actually adjusted, because what I wanted is normally they are switched in parallel, and I wanted them in series. Mm-hmm. What you basically have is these two together in parallel, which kind of sounds like a Music Man, and then we added this pickup, the neck pickup, in series, so you get a little bit more precision bass kind of sound, and together that you get this really, let's put it this way, we call it.
It's a perfect mixture for.
It's a little bit more like a growling kind of rock sound. That's what I was looking for, and he also loved that. So that's what they integrated in that model, and that's how the idea basically came to life.
But it's cool to, if you talk about Dingwall, you immediately think about Rob van der Loo with the D-Bird. So
okay.
Like a standard.
almost. It has become my signature model, but in a way it is. But I don't like signature models, to be honest. I think it's already pretty cool that I was able to collaborate on that model, and especially with the people from Dingwall, they are so open-minded about everything, and that's what I really like about it. Same with Darkless, they really listen to your input, and they do something with it.
Yeah, like a bit Symbiont, they kind of work together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I sometimes miss with other brands. They come with a whole idea of, they come up with a whole list of ideas, and then sometimes I think, I don't know if this is going to work, because on tour is always different than being at home and playing, of course. And that's what I always bring. I always share them my experiences from on the road and everything, things that might work and why not. Same reason why I chose for passive, for instance, because I've been playing for active basses for many years, but they always broke because of all the traveling.
Yeah.
Of course, that shouldn't be a reason to not play active, but to be honest, I also like to have a lot of headroom in my sound. So I always with the active bass, I'll put everything on basically on 12 o'clock, put everything on neutral. So that's why I switched to passive again, and that's what we also did with these guitars. Yeah.
What if money is not an issue, and apart from the Dingwall, what guitar or bass guitar is on your wish list?
Ooh. I still would like to have 50s precision bass. Yeah.
The first.
Yeah, the very
Yeah.
first. That's what's still on my wish list, yeah.
We have the same wish list.
Yeah. Cool. Booked. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Then a little about the touring. You've been all around the world with Epica, and how's the touring life?
It's cool but difficult. To be honest, I guess we all have that. We have this little love-hate relationship with touring. On one hand, when you get on the road and you've been on the road for a few weeks, you're starting to miss home. When you go home after a few weeks, you start missing touring. Yeah, that's basically it. Touring means a lot of traveling. You don't have a lot of privacy. That's sometimes an issue, of course. You miss your family. You miss your people at home.
You have to get along real good with the band member and the crew.
Because sometimes you're in a bus and you're stuck with 18 people in one bus. That can be pretty tough. So yeah, really have to get along, of course, and you have to respect each other. And everybody's different. Also in our band, we all have our different routines. I mean, some people like sporting. I don't like sporting at all. Some people are completely into reading. Other people like to play games. Whatever. You have to all respect that. And we all are weird people, I guess, because you have to be a little bit weird to do this kind of job, I guess. And but you have to respect it. And then with this club, we really manage that. That's really cool. We respect each other and we get along pretty well. But we also leave each other alone. Also, when you go to hotels, it's not that we're always stuck together 24/7, which is also a healthy thing.
That's real important, I think.
Yeah.
Because
same with a relationship at home. It's the same thing. Sometimes it's the same thing. I always call it being in a band is like a marriage, but you're married to 5 people.
Yeah. Any news about Epica?
Well,
you can share or?
Yeah, we recently we've been touring now for our latest album, The Holographic Principle, for about 2 years, and we recently released an album called The Solar System, which is basically also songs that were recorded during the same recording sessions, but we released it as a separate EP. And we're going to release our Attack on Titan EP, which was recorded especially for Attack on Titan, which is a very famous anime series in Japan, which will also be released in Europe pretty soon. And of course, we got the festival season coming up right now. I'm going to do a lot of cool festivals, including Wacken, whatever you name it.
That's the best.
Yeah.
Well, Rob, thank you for having me here, and
my pleasure.
Always great to see you, and I hope you stop by some other time.
Of course.
And we want you to play a couple of songs, right?
Sure, no problem.
Well, thanks anyway.
Sure, man.
Okay. Well, that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and see you later.